Hello, my kitchenettes, and welcome to David's Kitchen. Well, it is June and it is Pride Month, so what better time than to make a Pride cake? I've always been wanting to make one of these rainbow-looking Pride cakes, and this is the perfect opportunity to do it. It's the end of the month. I think it's going to be a great way to close out the month of Pride. I hope that you've had the opportunity to embrace and understanding what Pride is. It's really, for me, about the ability to be myself without the fear of repercussion. I've always been very fortunate to have a very open and accepting family, from my parents and my sister and brother and my friends and relatives, and it was a time that wasn't easy in the 80s to come out to your family, and I was fortunate that I had a great experience, and I try to live my life in Pride to play it forward and be a mentor to others and help be a good role model for the LGBTQ community. So I'm going to go ahead and start this Pride cake and we'll celebrate together. First thing that we're going to do, this is going to be a big cake because we need to make 6 9-inch layers, okay? So we're going to start out with 4.5 cups of cake flour. Go ahead and put that 4.5 cups of cake flour in the bowl. I'm actually bringing out my big guns, my 6-quart KitchenAid mixer, so I'm going to be able to make this all at one time. If you don't have a big mixer, you certainly can split this in half and do 2 separate batches, okay? So I'm doing the whole batch, so if you decide to half it, just make sure you half it correctly. Once again, 4.5 cups of cake flour, 3.5 cups of granulated sugar, 2 tablespoons plus 2 teaspoons of baking powder, goes in there, and I'm using a teaspoon of salt. All right, so that's all of our dry ingredients, and that's in this bowl. To this, we're going to add 3 sticks of butter that's been cut up into smaller cubes. I'm using salted butter. If you use unsalted butter, that's perfectly fine, but then you need 2 teaspoons of salt. I'm using salted butter, so I only put in 1 teaspoon of salt. Got it? Then for the wet ingredients, we're going to have 2 cups of whole milk, 12 egg whites, and then I'm using 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 1 teaspoon of almond extract to give my cake an almond flavor, all right? So what we're gonna do is combine these 3 ingredients and then mix it into the dry ingredients. So let's go over to the KitchenAid and I'll show you how we do it. Actually, before we head over there, I just want to show you a couple of things. So remember, I put the sugar, flour, baking powder, and salt into my large KitchenAid bowl, and I'm just whisking that up so it's all combined, okay? We're gonna set this aside, and the wet ingredients are gonna go all in at one time. So what I'm gonna do is take the egg whites, once again, 12 egg whites, my 2 cups of whole milk, and then my 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, but I decided to do 1 vanilla and 1 almond because I want the cake to have an almondy flavor. I haven't figured this out now, I love almond. So you just can kind of slightly whisk this together so that we have a combined egg milk mixture. And then when we get over to the KitchenAid, you're gonna see how quickly we put this cake together because there's a couple of other steps with the food coloring for the different layers. All right, let's go. All right, my kitchenettes, as you can see, I got the big guns today. I got my big 6-quart KitchenAid mixer. This is the one where the bottom comes up and down. And we're just gonna go ahead and start adding the butter a little bit at a time. And basically, ultimately, we're gonna want this butter and flour mixture to kind of show like a pea-like crumbles. All right, so you see how this mixture got nice and crumbly. So it's just kind of like a sandy, crumbly mixture of the dry ingredients and just the butter. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and start incorporating half of our egg, milk, and extracts into this and beat it all together. So we're gonna go ahead and turn this back on. Keep it slow. I'm gonna put about half of this in there and then speed it up a little bit. Get it all incorporated. And then do the other half of the milk mixture with the eggs. And just let's stir this around until it gets incorporated. All right, my kitchenettes, this batter is all nice and incorporated. Drop it down, you can see it's nice and smooth. And now the tricky part comes, because we have to go ahead and divide this into 6 equal parts so that we can go ahead and put it into our greased and floured 9-inch cake pans. And then we're gonna color the 6 different colors and bake the layers so that we can build the rainbow pride cake later on this afternoon. Okay, my kitchenette, so it was actually a little easier to divide the batter up than I originally thought. What I did is I used my little kitchen scale and I weighed the batter, and the batter was 6 pounds, a couple of ounces, okay, just literally a couple of ounces. And so what I did is it made it real easy to say, well, each cake should be about 1 pound and 1 ounce worth of batter. And so here's the first 3 because you want them to be equal so the layers come out level. We're going to do 6 colors. So I have purple, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. And going to start with the dark color first. Going to do these first 3 layers, purple, blue, and green. And I'm actually using gel food coloring. You really want to use gel food coloring because it gives a much richer color, and you need a lot of color. If liquid, you would just need too much, and you don't want all of that in your cake. So the gel food coloring works really well. I'm going to use probably about, let's see, we'll start out with about 1/4 teaspoon of the purple gel food coloring. I like to use it on a knife and kind of just put it in there and then use my spatula to scrape it off the knife. One thing when you're using these food colorings, because it tends to get color everywhere, make sure you have a lot of napkins handy and just use your spatula and look at that rich, deep purple that we're already getting just very quickly. Now, another thing is with this batter, remember, there's no egg yolk, so the batter is pretty white, and that's done intentionally because the yolk would, the yellow in the yolk would impact the vividness of the color, and you wouldn't have such a nice color cake. So, this is the first time I'm doing this. This looks pretty purple to me. Let's see what happens after we bake it, but here's the first one, and I'll go ahead and start doing the others. Hi, my kitchenettes. Wow, look how fabulous and festive these first 3 colors look, the purple, the blue, and the green. I love the vibrant color that you get from the white batter with the gel food coloring, and that's exactly the vibrancy we want this to look like a rainbow pride flag. I'm going to give you another baker's secret here. I have these things called cake collars. They're little pieces of material. You soak them in water and then just squeeze the water out of them. And what you do is you just wrap your cake pan with it. And what this does is it prevents your cake from cooking too fast on the outside versus the inside. Sometimes you might make a cake and the outside is a little bit darker and it might crown a little bit in the middle. That's because the outsides of the cake cook too fast before the inside does. And this is a big cake pan. It's a 9-inch pan. And I don't want that to happen, especially because I don't want the, like a brown color on the outside of the colored layers of this cake. So you put these damp cake collars on the cake pan. When you put them in the oven, it helps keep the exterior of the pan from getting overly hot compared to the middle. So we'll see how this works out. I'm going to put them in the oven. I'm using my convection oven at 325 degrees for about 15 to 20 minutes. I really got to watch it. It's not a lot of batter in these pans, so I do not want them to burn and dry out. So let's go pop them in the oven. Hello, my kitchenettes. Now it's time to go ahead and assemble our cake. So while I made the frosting, and I have a separate video that you can see how I made that frosting, I made a vanilla buttercream frosting. And while I was making the frosting, I had my cakes in the refrigerator, the individual layers wrapped in saran wrap, so they get nice and cool. So the first thing I did, we have a 9-inch cake, so I have a 10-inch cake piece of cardboard disc, and I taped it to my turntable so it doesn't flop around. We're just going to go ahead and put a little bit of frosting on the bottom, and then we're going to put our first layer bottom side down, make sure it's nice and even. Now, I noticed when I was cooking this that this one came a little uneven, so I'm just going to go ahead and level this by trimming a little bit of the thicker side off the cake, because if I don't do this and I'm not careful, I either have to put a lot of extra frosting to level it out, otherwise the cake will end up being lopsided, and we certainly don't want that. So you need your offset spatula. Gonna put about not a ton of frosting between these layers, because it's 6 layers. It'll end up being like really a lot of frosting. So, you know, putting probably about 2/3 of a cup of frosting between each layer, just enough to, you know, really create a separation between the colors. And we'll start putting this cake together. This is really coming together nicely. One thing that I did notice is it was a little bit higher on this side than this side. So what I did is put a little extra frosting here before I add the other 2 layers. We don't want the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So I will go ahead and finish getting this together. Actually, at the end, what we're gonna do is put a skewer in here so it will stop it from wobbling around, which we don't want it to do. All right, we're ready for the last layer. I'm gonna put the flat side up so we have a nice, flat, even cake on top. I think it looks awesome. Go ahead and put a little bit more frosting on here. And then we're gonna go ahead, put a very thin layer of frosting here. We're gonna go ahead and put the skewer through and then ice the sides. The skewer is real easy to do. All I did is took like a wooden shish kebab barbecue skewer and cut it to the length of the cake. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and push it down right in the middle. Make sure you tell your guests that there's a skewer in there, because you don't want somebody to be freaked out when they see a piece of wood inside the cake. But there, that's gonna hold the cake from moving side by side. I'm almost thinking, boy, this could be interesting just to sort of leave it natural like this and you see all the colors. But I think I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of frosting around the sides and then some sprinkles, something fun like that on the top. Hello, my kitchenettes. I really like the way this came out. I started putting the crumb layer on and I thought, you know, the colors are so vibrant from the actual cake that I am going to forego putting frosting on it. I know, I love frosting, but I'm gonna forego, come out of my comfort zone and forego putting frosting on it today. A lot of people call this a naked cake. I am gonna decorate the top a little bit though, so I did put some frosting in a piping bag, and I'm gonna make some rosettes. I'll do one here in the middle, like so. And I'll do several around the sides here, just to give it a little bit of festive look. And then as we finish that, I'll go ahead and put some of these beautiful rainbow colored sprinkles. It's actually casting sugar that's rainbow color, and you can see what that's gonna look like. So let me go ahead and finish this, and then when it's time to cut it, I'll show you the final piece. Hello, my kitchenettes. Well, here's the moment we've all been waiting for. We're gonna go ahead and cut open our pride cake. It's a big cake, and it is going to be very interesting to see as these colors come out. Are we ready for the reveal? And let's see. Oh my goodness. Look at that. It came out perfect. Oh, I'm so excited. Just look at the inside of the cake here. You can see the colors of the rainbow and this slice here. Let's see what it's going to taste like. That's the other moment we were all waiting for. Oh, delicious. That almond flavor is amazing. One of my favorites. I can't wait to go ahead and slice some big chunks of this. We're still in quarantine somewhat, doing our social distancing. So Coco, Peru, and Raphael, you're going to get some delicious pride cake to celebrate the last weekend in June. And Rick and Steve, and to all my friends out there, I wish I could just have a big party and have everybody over to celebrate and have some pride cake with us. You know, these are really still tough times. There's a lot of anxiety out there. The terrible injustice that's being done to Blacks and African Americans. We really need to support Black Lives Matter. We really need to support equality for all, LGBTQ, all people of color. It's really a time of us to reach deep down in our hearts and, you know, treat people the way you want to be treated. And if everyone would simply do something like that, I think that the world would be a much better place. So, be kind to one another, and for God's sakes, wash your hands. Ciao.